Welcome to Sweeping the Country. One more time, I'm your host, Derek Walker. Along with me, my co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Jimmy Carter. Hi, Jimmy.
Hello. My favorite time of the year is fall.
Yes,
and
we're here.
See what comes from this. There's just a lot going on in the world. The writers, I hope they got somewhat what they wanted. They seem to be asking for the moon.
Yeah.
But it pretty much worked out where they kept them out there 150 days or something like that, where they had already, most of them had gotten broke and hurt money-wise, and they just had to negotiate and get what they wanted.
Now, are the actors not off strike yet? They're still on strike? Okay,
they've got to work with them, and I don't know. They're not as in I don't know. I mean, most of the actors don't work anyway, you know?
Right. I mean, half the time they're not working.
I think the writers' union actually, I think people actually mostly are working, but, the actors mostly are unemployed.
Right, until they're employed, right? Until they get a part.
And some of them, very few make a living at what they do.
Yeah.
You hear about the Mel Gibsons. You don't hear about the Bernie Schwartzes.
Right. Poor Bernie.
Poor Bernie. I mean,
Schwartz.
I don't know. They're all worried about AI. And AI is I just don't understand it. And I think 99% of the country doesn't understand it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think you fear things you don't understand.
Sometimes.
I mean, I do.
I mean, this is the rise of the virtual artificial intelligence girlfriends is enabling the silent epidemic of loneliness in an entire generation of young men. It's having consequences for America's future.
I would agree with that. There's a new movie out, and I can't remember the name of it, but you'll remember the trailer, I'm sure, where the boy or the girl is missing half the back of their head, and it's like a cyborg robot, and they're protecting this robot, but this robot is a weapon of war. And it's a new movie, and I don't want to see it because I feel like it's too real. Like that could really happen, and people distort reality, with this kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's just, you go back, this is where the country's failings are enormous. And I think they've had, terrible effects on our future. When they let the internet just go crazy.
Yeah.
When they didn't put any, and I know they wanted to grow and all that stuff, but they didn't put any training wheels on the internet. Yeah. I think maybe we lost the country. I don't know.
Now, for people that don't know, just real quick, I mean, your television, radio, right? Your entire life, you have been knee deep in it. Talk about some of the regulations FCC has that internet doesn't, because there are a bunch.
Everything. I mean, the internet is totally the Wild West. You can pretty much steal copyright. You can you can show porn. You can do anything you want to do on the internet, whereas broadcasters can and don't want to do those things. But I'm just talking about the fact that they made pornography. Let's just talk about young boys for a second.
Sure, go.
You had all this stuff on screens that popped up there all of a sudden, and so these boys and girls, and mostly boys, I didn't have the trouble with girls. They lock on these screens and they don't get off. Yeah. So they're playing video games, which I never did, and which, again, my girls did not, for all practical purposes. Boys, somehow, they seem to, really go crazy over Xbox and all that stuff.
Sure, yeah.
And so now they become people that are not able to deal in social situations.
That's interesting, but I see it.
And women's roles have changed completely. I've seen it, really before my time, but certainly during my time, the role of women, and I'm all about it. I mean, I like having these girls that are strong girls that aren't waiting for some dude, to take care of them.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
They mostly can seem to be able to take care of themselves. That's not, for a dad, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But this whole thing now, these boys are so locked into this internet, and they don't know they don't know what to do with women.
I would agree with
not
that.
Men ever did. I really don't know what to do with them now.
That's true.
And then women don't know what to do with men.
Yeah.
If you go to Austin, is a good place to go downtown.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of action downtown. It's all these pedal things, scooters that are everywhere, laying all over the place. Bikes are all over the place, bike paths, these cars that you can rent for the hour or the day. That are all over the place. Ubers are everywhere. No one has a car. these grocery stores that are in buildings like you live in New York, but you really live in Texas. It's just the lifestyle has changed for so many people. And a lot of people are just not getting married anymore in traditional sense. They're waiting later to have children. Some are waiting never.
Yeah.
They're not interested in having children.
That's right.
And if we have a country that doesn't have children, or at least certain people, maybe the Caucasian people, don't want to have children, if that's what it is, then people that do want to have children are going to take it over.
Yeah, there's been a whole rash of opposed.
People are scared to talk about that as far as race is concerned.
No, yeah.
I'm just mentioning it because it's, I'm white and I keep up with what white people are doing, but it just seems like a lot of people are of a Caucasian not all of them seem as interested nationally, and it's proven out. I mean,
yeah, the birth rates are down across the board, and
big time.
I think you see a lot of people now. They're saying, "Hey, it's great to be without kids. Look at what we're doing. We're going on vacation," and social media ramps that up, right? Look at these people. They don't have kids. Look what fun they're doing. They're being able to spend their own money on themselves, and how great is that?
Kids are expensive, and they
are, man,
and they make your hair fall out, and all of that stuff. But when I'm just glad that my decisions when I was 30 or 25, by accident were good sometimes.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I would agree.
Because if you're really planning on it's not a logical thing to want to do sometimes of having children, or maybe it's just you can't afford it yet.
Right, that's time.
The biggest thing. You can't afford it yet.
Yeah.
I can't afford myself. How can I possibly afford some other person?
I can tell you, and you know this too, you never can afford kids. There is never going to be a time in your life when you say, Doug, I could afford a couple kids right now. You won't. I mean,
before you get to the point of having children, you got to have a girlfriend.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And if you're socially inept,
you've got to start this somewhere. And we're not quite into the world where you just meet somebody to have children and that's it. I mean, maybe some people
are we going
do that.
there?
I don't know. I don't know who they are, but they call it a silent epidemic of loneliness that has hit this generation of young men. Hard numbers: 60% of young men. Let me turn the page because I'm not going to ad-lib this part at all.
Don't mess it up.
60% of men 18 to 30 are single, compared to only 30% women the same age. 60%.
That's a lot.
It is. 1 in 5 men report not having a single close friend, a number that has quadrupled in the last 30 years. The amount of social engagement with friends dropped by 20 hours per month over the pandemic and is still decreasing. These men are lonely, and it is having real consequences. They are choosing artificial intelligent girlfriends over real women, meaning they don't have any relationships with real women, don't marry them, and don't raise babies with them. America desperately needs people to have more babies, but all the signs are pointing toward fewer relationships, fewer marriages, fewer babies.
Fascinating. And I would say a lot of the blame is technology. I mean,
it's some of it, but I mean, again, if you read these stats, they're not because they're woke and politically correct. They're not breaking it down by race, by socioeconomic, by what your money is, or anything else. And it just says 600,000 fewer births in 2023 in the U.S. relative to 15 years ago. Number of children per woman has decreased by more than 50% in the last 60 years.
Fascinating. Just fascinating.
So,
but I think it's a trend. I think it's a trend in society completely. I mean, we talk about boy-girl relationships or just friendships, guys that don't have friends or gals too. But I think some of this isolation with the electronic media makes you not able to communicate outside of that medium. Does that make sense? Like, you and I talk.
Maybe. Because that's certainly where people are experienced, when they date online. I've met people that way. Yeah. In the early days of some of those things, and some of it worked out, some of it didn't.
Okay.
But I'm glad it did. I mean, there were some nightmare things, but I just was not of this type of person that was good at picking up somebody at a bar.
Yeah.
I was never able to operate like that. That
Oh,
just
see,
wasn't
now
me.
I was the
And there were
king
people
of
that
that.
could, that
Yeah,
were great at it. They were
I was
fantastic.
good at
they're
it.
just,
I tell you, I was great at it. That was my
see,
forte, Jimmy. I was good at that, but I couldn't.
I don't even know how I got a date. I mean, because I surely didn't do it that way, but somehow they went out with me,
Well,
and
they say the grocery store, or the church is a
I've got
good
the
place.
bills to prove it.
I believe that. I believe that.
But
Yeah, a lot of it's going electronic now, and then you get in these situations now where we do this, and COVID did this, where we all work from home, right? Everybody, and you do from,
that is such an overall going to be in the end a bad thing.
Yeah,
if you're
I
working at home,
so.
You're isolated, and there's times when there's just so much craziness in sociology that's going on.
Yeah.
You've got babies that are being raised in groups, and they have been for the last 50 years.
Yeah,
where
fair.
they've been raised in daycares.
Daycare, yeah.
And I've had the theory that because the children were raised in daycares most of the time, that's why this generation is so comfortable in living in these, I call them beehive house,
like communal living. Yeah.
It's almost like communal living, because that's what they did.
That's fascinating.
When they were being formed.
I
don't ever hear anybody talking about that either.
That is fascinating.
I think it's been DNA'd into them.
Yeah.
That they were raised in a big old pile of people, and that's why they like being in almost a primitive pile of people. They also just something about, they missed out somewhere on a lot of stuff. They got disillusioned by religion.
Yeah, there's some of that.
They got totally disillusioned by that for whatever reason. They tried to reduce formality in religion. I think they've been successful to a point with that.
Yeah, I agree.
But people going, well, they can like go dress like Futterman to go to church.
Oh yeah, changing
which
that
was
whole
never
deal.
acceptable when I was a kid. But that's okay. God doesn't care what you're wearing.
No, sure.
But this whole thing about loneliness, working by yourself, it's just not good for you. Particularly at certain ages, it's not good for you. I wish I'd never done it. I wish I've done it for the last, I don't know, 20, 30, maybe 30 years almost.
Wow, that's a long time.
That I haven't had to be at a TV station. I think it's almost 30 years.
Wow.
Where I taught school, and I would go in there and I'd teach, and I'd go home.
Yeah.
I would be on television. I'd go in there to be on television or produce a story, and I'd go home. But I wasn't involved in that culture from 2 to 10, 8 to 5, that type of stuff.
It's funny.
I missed a lot by not doing that. I missed a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I missed a lot of socialization process. I also, missed, I didn't have to commute. I didn't have to have school clothes, as you say.
Yeah.
I had to have clothes because I was working in television and teaching. But, I missed out on some of that stuff. I didn't have to be somewhere at 7 a.m. I had to be in my pajamas in front of a microphone.
Right.
Or the upper half of me dressed.
Right.
So
TV,
I had it a little differently than some. But I just think we've made some real not on purpose mistakes, that have led us down a road that's, the rest of the world has not gone down. I mean, to most of the degree, I think they got problems in China, and they got problems, in Europe, and they've got trouble in a lot of other places, different kinds of trouble. But we don't relate to that particularly, and everybody is not us.
Yeah.
I was seeing where Rolls-Royce was going to try to get 2030. They were going to get rid of all the cars that burn gas or something. Now somebody pushed something back to 2035 because they thought that, because of the lack of infrastructure of charging stations, that it's just not practical
feasible
to do that. They've been pushed by everybody. And it also, they've got, there's this climate reaction, this business in some places is much more severe. I mean, requiring X amount of insulation in your home, requiring this, requiring that, requiring this. I mean, it's hardcore. All we hear about, is what they're going to do with cars. That's the thing that got most people's attention.
Yeah, sure.
Was the car. But there's just so many changes going on. And the climate thing, it just seems stupid about the car business. We're not ready for that. The country's not ready for it. I think it puts us in a tremendous disadvantage if we go in that direction with the current technology. There's just no way we're going to be able to pull that off. And we're pulling it off disingenuously. We just had the president this week go into a UAW strike line. For the first time in history, the United States president went on the picket line with somebody.
That's crazy.
You're not supposed to do that as a president. You're not supposed to take sides. You're supposed to be like the NCAA or the ref.
Yeah,
You're
right.
supposed to bring people together, not put them on one side or the other. And this bunch has been great at that. And the other side, Trump will probably do it this week too. Put them all out there. But that's just not the role of those people to do that. You're supposed to be bringing people together and seeking solutions.
Well, Jimmy, I mean,
and
that
done
role
it with climate change and everything else. They want to yank us. They're just not ever going to give a charging station to somebody in Blanco, Texas.
Right.
But they're hardly giving it to them in downtown Cincinnati. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, logic just says that there's not enough of those charging stations. We know that. We've talked about.
Yeah, let's just to go back to our original point though of people that are lonely and working by themselves. Yeah. I just don't recommend it. I saw somebody that they just got a layoff notice that I know. Because I think it made it easier for the company to lay them off because they weren't there most of the time.
Well, and
if you're just a piece of paper, if you're just a number on a paper, there's no conscience involved with nothing.
You're right about that.
It makes them a little bit easier to get rid of you.
Let them go. Yeah, you're right about that. And a lot of the workers right now where the companies have said, hey, we want you to come back to the office, they're saying, well, you guys said we could work from home, right? So we bought a house out here in Egypt. And now we work from Egypt, and now you say you want me to come back to work in Alabama. Well, I don't live there anymore. I can't. So they end up quitting. And so there's all kinds of other problems that go along with it. But I'll tell you this. Both of my kids work from home. My wife works from home. You know that. Most of the time, she dresses for success in yoga pants. My wife, that is. And when I come home from work, all she wants to do is get out of the house. And both my kids, same thing. They want to get out of the house. My daughter just took a brand new job where she goes to the office. So for about a month now, she's been going to an office in downtown with a parking garage, and she loves it. She loves going somewhere. And so I'm not taking a side. I'm not like the president. I am not taking a side on this. I just think that life's about balance. Yes, 100%.
I think that staying at home and as much as I was in a fraternity in college. I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
That's not my nature thing to want to be in a pile of 50 people.
Yeah.
And as I've grown over the years, my whole deal was to isolate in some cases, whether I was flying first class in the airplane or when everybody else was taking a bus, I'd rent a car.
Yeah,
because I just wanted to have control of my own destiny.
Sure, yeah.
Instead of being in a pack mentality and things. I don't know.
I think you're onto something.
You read the stuff, and it's very troubling.
I think
people.
You are
technology.
I think you're spot on though, Jimmy, with the daycare kids. I think that is a fascinating theory, and I think it holds a ton of water. Why? Because in our generation, our parents were still, at least one of them was home, raising us, and then the generation behind us, even my kids went to daycare. We had them home as much as we could.
Mine did too. Mine turned out good and everything, but it's just, you see it. I just go down, having children again takes two.
Sure.
Generally. Now there's something to beat that rule. That's not even a hard and fast rule. Some people just, go to the store and get a turkey baster or whatever they do.
Pick up some sperm, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Eggs, whatever it is. But generally they want to, they want to have a family. They want to raise it as a family and have, and do that kind of stuff because maybe they had a family when they were coming up and they want to do that again. Divorce is so high a percentage in this country that I know that's had an effect on people, either an opposite effect. Well, I don't want to turn out that way. I'm not going to get divorced. Right. So therefore I'm not going to get married.
Yeah. If I don't get married, I can't get divorced. Right.
But then to go ahead and hell, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to try. So there's no hard and firm answer. I just think that usually it's the old scientific thing, cause and effect. You do this, equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
And I just don't know where this AI girlfriend thing is going. But I know that, with boys, the girls have always been a difficult subject.
Even when we were
always
kids, they were difficult. I mean, you know that.
Yeah,
we would,
they
a
are. They
lot of
were.
people accuse guys of comparing notes, but most of the time when we were comparing notes, it was to figure out the women. It wasn't because
Yeah,
we were.
because they didn't come with an operating
That's
manual.
right. That's right.
And
100%.
and believe me, it's many, many decades later, I'm still trying to figure out the basic
Right.
2.0
Right.
or even 1.0
Right. Right.
here. But technology, here's a new autonomous drone for cops to track you in the dark. When you see movies like Terminator, you wonder, we've been heading toward a lot of these movies for a long time.
There's no doubt. You're right about that.
The movie Network was a harbinger of things that happened in television. Terminator, I think, is a harbinger of things that had happened with, these things that are looking at you, and the spies and the autonomous drones that can follow you around, look in the dark.
I was in the station yesterday, and I was waiting to get into one of the production rooms. And I was kind of standing in the hallway, and all the production rooms were full, and we had guests there, and there was all kinds of stuff going on. And so I was standing over by these tall component racks, all the racks of all the stuff. And I look over, and there's a big screen TV, like a 55-inch TV, just really out of place on a shelving unit right there in the corner. And I started looking at it for a minute, and all of a sudden I realized there's about 20 cameras all over the station. They're in the garage. They're out front. They're on corner 16th Street. They're on the corner of Bancroft.
So somebody can see everything that's going on all the time.
Everything. Inside, minus the bathrooms. Inside, the bullpen, the bullpen area for a news, that whole area, there's 4 cameras. I mean, it's full of cameras. And I never even thought about it till I was standing there and looking at it. I thought, they probably go through all our emails. They read all of our emails. They watch everything we do. I mean, we're under constant surveillance. There's no getting out of it.
Constant surveillance.
Constant
surveillance.
Yeah, no doubt.
And and again, I don't know. There's parts of that I think are good. Some things I think are bad.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm going to park in a different spot because the garage has a better camera if I park in this certain corner. And I thought, well, if my car gets broken into, at least we'll see who does it. But yeah, we're under constant surveillance, and I think you have to assume that now. I think if you're walking down the street, you better assume they can see you. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. But on the other hand, I cannot understand why technology. See, you've got people in society that are against anything like that, and that's the civil liberties people,
right?
And all of that. They're kind of looking out for us to some degree, but then some degree they're not, because I think these chases that Los Angeles particularly does are so wrong. They're worried about the rights of the person they're chasing, and not about the rights of all of us who that car and the police are allowed to whiz by at 150 miles an hour.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, you're risking the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of people, and innocent people. Whoever's running from the cop should be stopped. Now, why we can't use technology to stop them, I don't understand. If we don't start using technology in the right way, we don't need to build $18 billion worth of more prisons. We need to use technology on a lot of those people.
Sure.
Not everybody is a mad mass murderer. Some people are thieves and different things like that. They ought to be treated differently.
You
and
said
a violent
something
person, that's a whole other thing. Maybe they belong in a cage. But some people, need to just be staying in like a halfway house or something. They've got some kind of control on their legs or their arms, and they get out if they get out of a certain area, they get zapped.
No, I think you're right. I think there are levels of, when you get even a child, when they act out a certain way, there are levels of punishment, right? I mean, you take away the phone, you take away
But we've got to get ourselves, we can't let these people that are running wild in these cities right now, because videos are up there every day on TikTok and everything else. Because we have so many surveillance cameras. We're catching these people hanging around on street corners, and here comes some guy walking by and they beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Or somebody's riding by and they grab their car. We can't allow that. And we can't allow people to be rushing down the interstate where it's taken, where they're chasing somebody for 2 hours in these slow chases. That needs to be zapped, and that car needs to be able to. They need to have an override control where they can go bzzz and cut that car off.
Well, they can do
and
that.
Lock the doors, and they can do it if they want to.
And they can do it with the electric cars. They can just shut those down. They'd be able to do that. It's
so. I mean, they're able to do it with almost all these cars that have computers and stuff.
Oh yeah, shoot.
But you can't risk everybody's life in doing that, and you can't let these cities, that are closing down because of smash and grab.
Mm-hmm.
People they've closed down whole cities and parts of cities, because they're incapable. The police are scared. Nobody wants to back them up on that. And yeah, they get a little out of hand and do something stupid every once in a while. But, you're just going to let criminals run everything. At some point, that's going to be a really bad situation because the citizens are going to rise up at something, and it's just not going to be pretty how that turns out.
Well, I think the California rule was if you didn't steal $1,000, it was a misdemeanor.
That's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Me too. And now they're saying, hey, if we catch you,
who are these people that run society like that?
I don't know.
Who are these representatives? Where do they live?
Right.
And I just don't. I'm just so confused about a lot of things that's going on with presidents walking picket lines when they're supposed to be not taking one side or the other, trying to work with both sides.
I'm just going to say it, Jimmy. I don't think he knows where he is walking.
You're probably right. You got AI girlfriends out there that you can create.
Now that's not a bad thing.
So you don't have to deal with regular girls. You've got, you just got a lot of crazy stuff going on. You got the Chinese running wild all over the world. And read up a little bit about the military. It'll scare the bejesus out of you.
What's
Remember
going on?
The other day, the F-35, they had an F-35 plane.
Yeah.
That something was going wrong with it, and the pilot bailed out, landed in somebody's backyard.
Right.
He called 911. 911 from the people's house to report that he was in somebody's backyard and his plane had flown somewhere else. And he's flying in
that's the
whatever it is,
Air Force,
$100 million. Yeah, and that they don't have some kind of radio on them or something, and so
a tracking
the plane
device
couldn't be found for a day.
Yeah, a ridiculous.
It flew 80 miles away before it crashed.
Yeah,
shouldn't that bother somebody?
It bothers me.
It turns out that something like 40% or maybe half of all F-35s, which are extremely expensive, are out of service because the way they designed them is that we can't afford to repair them. The F-35 Joint Strike Fighter is expensive, hard to repair without the intervention of the original manufacturer. F-35s are only available for missions half the time, and that's our first-line fighters.
Wow.
A whole lot of these expensive jets are sitting in storage because they can't get parts for them or they can't repair them because the military can't do it. They got to wait for the contractor to come in there and fix it. So that is really
unbelievable,
stupid. And we're talking trillions of dollars for just that one thing.
I still don't understand how it even got lost. They're not tracking their own planes? I mean,
it's something
I'm floored.
It's just how did we, when we had 9/11, how in the world did these people get control of these planes and fly them into buildings? And we had no fighters that could go up there and respond, for an hour or something of some ridiculous say. We just caught we got a lot of jointed priorities in life.
Right. You're right.
In people's lives about, the fact that people want to have a dog instead of a child, that's okay for some people.
Yeah. Sure.
But as an over half of the society wanting to be that way, that's not good.
We did a story this morning on the all these oligarchs that have these yachts that are $50 million and $500 million, and supposedly one of these yachts that the U.S. has tried to repossess through legal channels or take over belongs to Putin, but it's not in Putin's name, and we can't figure all that. Yeah. So in the meantime, we have now sequestered all these yachts, right? Millions and millions of dollars worth of yachts that need maintenance and upkeep and moorage and all that stuff. So we're spending money. We're spending money on these.
Your best day is the day you get your boat, and your second best day is the day you get rid of
Right.
it.
And I could have told them that just based on having a ski boat, but here we are sitting here, and as a government, we've possessed all these things that now cost us money to hold on to in an effort to put pain on some of these other countries, involved with the Ukraine war. It's just crazy, all the stuff that's going on. It blows my mind every day. And you said it a minute ago.
And that's all the more reason why people are not watching the news, because they don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
And, I don't think there's a thing on here we've said today that I'm pretty sure is correct. These things are all the GAO and other people. I'm reading direct reports from that.
Yeah.
And the fact that guys are running around with artificial intelligence girls.
Yeah, we're not making that up. That's
all
not
the different things. We're not making this stuff up. It's
real.
Really happening.
Yeah.
It's really happening.
And it's scary. And you know what I recommend? It's just get a good book or a real lady. You could find a real lady somewhere and then make a baby.
Difficult.
We need babies. So make a baby tonight.
I don't know. You don't want it's just you can make so many boo-boos in that area.
That's also true.
I can't follow your advice on that. Been there, done that.
All right,
but I'm
fair
telling
enough. Fair
enough. That's like the Road to the Sun road in the middle of winter up there in Glacier National Park. That whole experience is.
Well, Jimmy, always exciting as usual, and just a pleasure to talk with you and do this every week. And if you're listening, tell a friend. We'd love to have you aboard. And until next time on Sweeping the Country, I'm Derek Walker. He is
Jimmy Carter.
Good day.
Good day.